Hey everybody. Sorry, I recorded like the first four slides of this presentation, and apparently it did not want to record because the app I was using only wanted to use like 5 minutes, and that's not long enough for me because I'm long-winded and I like to talk a bunch. So we're gonna try this again. So let me wickety back it up a little bit to political parties. So real fast because this is seriously the third time I've tried explaining this today, and this thing keeps kicking me off. Political parties. We did the quiz in class last time we were together. Republicans, small government, lower taxes. We're putting more money into military and less emphasis on social programs. The reason for this is that most Republicans believe that people should make their own way and that you should take advantage of the capitalistic system of being able to get rich by starting your own business or making money off the stocks or something like that. Um, so they believe in like more competition, not just let's pound poor people into the ground. So a lot of people think that, and it's not necessarily true. Democrats, lots of people think they just like to give stuff away for free, but that's also not true. They just believe in rerouting some of that tax money from the military or from some special interest involvement and putting it towards like Social Security, unemployment, welfare, Medicare, Medicaid, things like that. Um, Again, they don't believe necessarily that we should have a nanny state where the government takes care of everything, but what they do believe in is giving people a fair shot and kind of like raising that level of like, hey, people shouldn't be poor, shouldn't have a bunch of poor people. Um, Independents, typically moderate. They're normally in between the two parties, and it's basically a mix of the two ideas. It's nobody should be poor, nobody should be broke, nobody should be desolate. Everyone should at least have a fighting chance. However, we don't want to have our taxes be super high. So you can't really have that, but that's what we're striving towards. Very few independents lean toward authoritarianism or anarchism, and normally the ones who do are just really sleepy in their history classes, and they never learned that neither one of those government systems work out super well. Okay, iron triangles. This is super hard to explain without questions because there's always questions and it's confusing. I'm going to do my best. So, this triangle probably looks familiar because it's the same setup that we use for checks and balances, but stay with me because we're going to try. So, we're going to work left to right. We're going to start with interest groups in the bottom left, and we're going to work our way up to the Congress and then back down towards the bureaucracy. So, an interest group is a group of people, non elected. So, it would be like an organization that you're interested in working with. So, think like the VFW for Veterans Affairs. Think like the Boy Scouts of America. Think unions, right? Like I'm part of the Ohio Educators Association, which is the Ohio Union for Teachers. These are all interest groups. So they provide electoral support to the Congress. So basically, they say, hey, if you agree with what we agree with, we'll make sure our members come out and vote for you in November. And normally, Congress people in those areas, like they're looking for those endorsements. So in turn, when they get elected to Congress, then they're going to put funding and political support behind whatever program that interest group wanted. So let's keep using the VFW, Veterans Affairs, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Let's keep using that as an example because you'll see it on the next screen. So if the VFW provides electoral support to Congress, Congress is then going to provide funding and political support to the VA, which is the government organization for Veterans Affairs. And that's that bureaucracy down there in the bottom right. And in turn, that bureaucratic organization, in this case, Veterans Affairs, is either going to not regulate the VA as much, which isn't really what the VFW is looking for. They want, their veterans to be taken care of. But really that second one, that special favors, like, hey, let's rebuild some VA hospitals and make them look nice for our veterans. Let's make sure our veterans are getting plenty of mental health support once they come back from foreign wars. Let's make sure that, they're getting good medical treatment, not just being told to use ibuprofen and ice, those kind of things. In the background, the bureaucracy actually executes the policy choices of Congress. Congress keeps writing friendly legislation to the interest groups, and then the interest group keeps guaranteeing congressional support to that bureaucratic organization. So you can see they're all kind of interdependent on each other. So let's look at a real example of this with the Department of Veterans Affairs. So I said VFW. This one has American Legion. It's two sides to the same coin. So that government agency would be the Department of Veterans Affairs. The interest group is the American Legion. And then Congress, the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. So they're going to work that same triangle, but this just gives names to it. Okay. So in this case, the Congress would be that House Committee on Veterans Affairs. The bureaucratic organization would be the VA. And then the interest group would be the American Legion. Make sense? I hope so. I hope it makes sense. That was a really fast explanation. Might have to go back and rewatch that. Public policy at different levels by different branches. Oh, look at this. A reminder. Oh, no, not review. Not a review. Okay. So you can look here. You can see some of this stuff that we've spent all year talking about all this. We've spent all year talking about Congress and the Ohio General Assembly and who's the head of the executive branches and what is it that the judicial branches do. We haven't talked a lot about the local organization, mostly because it's really convoluted because it's super small. So we will get to it a little bit later in this unit. So you might want to pause it here if you don't remember any of this stuff and just review your stuff real fast. Federal branches. Federal executive branch is really important to the creation of foreign and domestic policies, foreign being other countries, domestic being here in the United States. So this would be like Donald Trump's job. This would be like his administration's job. So the first thing, foreign policy, how our country interacts with other countries. Domestic policy, how our government interacts with its people. And this, like, that's a huge focus on federalism, right? Want to make sure that the states have plenty of power. And then finally, public policy, how's our government responding to issues and concerns? So as I film this on March 17th, 2020, like the big one is the coronavirus, right? That's why we're even watching this video right now. And Trump's public policy of, let's listen to the CDC, social distancing, small groups of people, like that's his public policy right now. So we're not passing laws about it, but it's how we're executing the laws in the best interest of the citizens of the United States. Oh, there we go. Department of State. So they're in charge of helping the president on foreign policy issues because Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Barack Obama or George W. Bush, they cannot be experts in every field, right? So we have these different departments, these cabinet departments that are going to help him out. In this case, the Department of State takes on foreign policy and is in charge of U.S. embassies in other countries. U.S. embassies, you send an ambassador over to like the embassy in Iraq, and he's the one that interacts with the Iraqi government on behalf of President Trump. That's how embassies work. This is an important part of the president's cabinet and is normally occupied by trusted advisors or someone who has a ton of experience in the field. So that's what we're looking at there. Federal legislative branch, Congressional Budget Office helps the executive and legislative branches anticipate and track the economy. And in turn, that helps them come to a compromise on the yearly budget. So we're compromising between goals of the current administration, the American people, and how much money they really want to put us in debt. That's what that's for. State branches. How much time I got left here? What we got going on? Hold, please. Oh, look at that. It's my face. Wow. Okay. Cool. It's not going to tell me how much time I got left. That's all right. Let's try this a different way, shall we? Oh, is that right? That's not right. That's all right. I'll do this. Oh dear. Run away from this. All right. That did not do what I wanted to do. Hold again. Sorry, guys. Online learning is silly and it's tough. But you know what? We're just going to go back to present mode. There we go. Sorry about that. Sorry. Okay. State legislative branch. So basically, they do the same thing that the federal one does, just at the state level. So how do we compromise between the executive branch, what the Constitution says, what our people want, and what our budget will let us do, right? So we have a legislative service commission in Ohio that just makes sure that all of those things putting together doesn't actually go out and contradict what like the national government's saying or what our state goals are. So it's almost like this parent organization that says, hey, remember to stay in line for this, this, and this, because this is what we've already committed to doing. So kind of important, kind of cool. So that Ohio's Legislative Service Commission, brought to you by members like you. That's what we're talking about there. State judicial branch, the Ohio's Court of Common Pleas help shape public policy because of how they interpret and apply the law to everyday cases. So this is like sentencing criminals. This is, interpreting the way laws are being executed. Think about minor drug offenses being decriminalized. So the reason why we think about that is that if the judicial branch decides not to execute those laws to its fullest ability, then it completely changes the way public policy is executed in the state, and the state has to react to the way the judicial branch interpreted it. So that's pretty cool, pretty neat. But normally on something like that, like decriminalization, all three branches are working together anyways, and they've already come to an agreement. So it's not like super duper controversial. Super duper. All right, local branches. Here we go. Depending on the composition of your local government, legislative and executive branch could be a combination, but they help shape and execute public policy. And really what they're working with is tax collection and abatement, and that is lowering or temporarily suspending the property tax. So they're worried about taxes. They're writing laws, they're making ordinances, they're doing like some zoning things, but their big thing is how much tax can we collect and what are we going to use it for? That's their big job. Oop. So how can you, other than preventing forest fires, engage in public policy? The big three: campaign for candidates who support your beliefs, write letters to your elected officials, and hold demonstrations or support demonstrations in your state or community. So a lot of times teachers wind up protesting at the State House for one reason or another, and one of these days I might find myself there supporting an issue that I really believe in. So just those are three ways that you can make a difference. That's exciting. Businesses and nonprofits and other organizations can also pretty much do the same thing that we just talked about with the big three, but like they're lobbying elected officials, which means they're trying to influence them with that political support that we talked about with the Iron Triangle. They're providing testimony before committees. They're preparing briefs for hearings or proceedings. They're holding public meetings. Might be in a hotel, might be in a library, might be in a school, might be in a church, but they're holding meetings. And they're also providing expert information to officials. So like if something comes up with education, teachers, superintendents, whoever might go and, speak at a hearing or a committee meeting and give them that information on, hey, this is how this law and the way you're executing it is going to affect us on the ground in real life. Please note, if you're going to write a letter, which I hope you do, that you really need to know which branch and which level you're writing to. If you have a problem with potholes in your community, you should not be writing to President Trump. You should be writing to your local government or maybe even your state senator, not President Trump. I doubt he's going to take the time to do anything about your potholes, not because it's President Trump, but because the presidents are very busy. So potholes, not their number one priority. Wow, look at that. A whole unit in 15 minutes. I'm going to back out of this and success coffee. So good. So good when we fly through a unit in less than 15 minutes. So I hope this finds you well. Hope you're safe. Hope you're happy. And you'll see me in the next video. Thanks, homies.